the life of Moses. And we are going to finish that today. We are going to talk about some things. We're going to skip a lot of chapters here in Numbers. As last week we were in Numbers 20, 21, I think. And so we're going to skip all the way up to 32 today. And I'm going to recap this for you guys. A lot of this was they were moving. They were on the move. Aaron died. They mourned for 30 days, and then they got on the move. We talked about how the people of Moab wouldn't let them go through their country, so they had to go around Moab and stuff. And so they did that, and they're doing that. And that's what a lot of that is. They had several battles. They had interesting times where people tried to deceive them and took a donkey to straighten them out, and stuff. And so, but we do see that. And then there was also a lot of ceremonial rules and rituals and laws given out and stuff like that. I encourage you to read it at some point, because it does talk about all the different kings that came out to attack them and to try to beat them, but because they were walking in God's will at that time, they were no match for them. God was with them through that, and so we see, they keep going. There was even a case where they were led astray. Then at one point they were led astray by Midianite women who were seducing the men, basically, and you're not careful, a woman will lead you astray. So, but
talking from experience.
maybe. So, but definitely, if and the book of Proverbs talks about that if you get an immoral woman, she will lead you astray. If you get a good moral woman, then she'll bless you, and God will bless you, and it'll be great. And so, hopefully you don't find one of those immoral ones that want to lead you astray. But these women they got them worshiping their gods and everything, and a plague came upon the people because of it. And so they were.
Now, Bruce, just in case you're wondering, we are not late. It's not our fault that all the rest of you are too early.
I understand, Mr. Hank. I understand. So we'll try not to start too early again for you. Okay. So, but yeah. So we see that a plague came upon them during this time, and everything, and it was they ended up having to go and they ended up having to, in fact, one, while they were talking about it, because Moses was upset about this, and so he was upset because they weren't doing, they let these women come in and lead them astray and everything. And so while they were actually talking, actually, I'm not sure if it's here or if it's later on, but in any case, we're at one point, because later on they go out and they attack. God tells them to go out and attack the Midianites for what they did, for causing them to go astray and causing a plague on the camp and everything. God tells them to go out and attack them. And they went out and attacked them, and they killed all the men. They destroyed everything. And then they brought the women and children back with them. And Moses said, "Why'd you bring the women back? They were the problem in the first place." So, he wanted, so they in fact, at one point, either the first time or the second time, I can't remember which one it was, one of the grandsons of Aaron, who's now in the priesthood, he's son of the high priest, Eleazar, I think, at this point, but his name is Phinehas, something. Um, he sees somebody actually bring a woman into the camp, a Midianite woman into the camp, and knowing that they caused the plague, it was causing the plague and stuff. I think it's the first time that the plague was going on. So he went and chased the guy down and killed him and everything, right? So he chased him down and ran both of them, the Israelite and the Midianite woman, through with a spear and killed them. And so, and then that helped, that, yeah, it was the first time, because God told Moses that because of his actions, he would turn the plague back away, but that they needed to go out and attack. And so, but we're going to see here shortly. So the reason we're kind of stopping on 34, Numbers 34, is because this one's kind of interesting. Moses is talking, giving to the people, and they're talking about how they're going to divide up the land. Now, two of the tribes want to be east of the Jordan or west of the Jordan. They want to stay on the opposite side of the Jordan as then the other people that are going to continue. They're going to cross the Jordan and go into the promised land because of, they say that the ground there is really good and fertile, and they can raise crops there and raise livestock and do what they need to. And so they asked Moses for permission to stay on that side. And so, but Moses is not really in favor of that at this point. But because he's afraid that what they want to do is that they just want to get in because it's coming right, it's stopping right as they get in the country. He's afraid that they're just going to get in the country and stop and then let the other tribes go on and fight for the rest of the land. And he doesn't want that. He wants all the tribes to fight together, and God wants all the tribes to fight together. And so he's not going to grant them the land if they're not in agreement to fight. And that's what we're going to see here. So Numbers 32, 20 through 42, please. Or 30, yeah, 32.
32.
32,
20
my
through
bad.
42. Okay. Then Moses said to them, if you do this thing, if you arm yourselves before the Lord for war, and all your armed men cross over the Jordan before the Lord until he has driven out his enemies from before him, and the land is subdued before the Lord, then afterwards you may return and be blameless before the Lord and before Israel. And this land shall be your possession before the Lord. But if you do not do so, then take note, you have sinned against the Lord. And be sure your sin will find you out. Build cities for your little ones and folds for your sheep, and do what has proceeded out of your mouth. And the children of Gad and the children of Reuben spoke to Moses, saying, your servants will do as my Lord commands. Our little ones, our wives, our flocks, and our livestock will all be there in the city of Gilead, but your servant will cross over, every man armed for war, before the Lord to battle, just as my Lord says. So Moses gave command concerning them to Eleazar the priest, to Joshua the son of Nun, and the chief fathers of the tribes of the children of Israel. And Moses said to them, if the children of Gad and the children of Reuben cross over the Jordan with you, every man armed for battle before the Lord, and the land is subdued before you, and you shall give them the land of Gilead as promised. But if they do not cross over armed with you, then they shall have possession among you in the land of Canaan. Then the children of Gad and the children of Reuben answered, saying, as the Lord has said to your servants, we will do. We will cross over armed before the Lord into the land of Canaan, but the possession of our inheritance shall remain with us on this side of the Jordan. Moses gave to the children of Gad, to the children of Reuben, and to half the tribe of Manasseh, and the son of Joseph, and the kingdom of Sihon, king of Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, the land with its cities within the borders, and the cities of the surrounding country. And the children of Gad built Dibon and Atharon and Aurora, Athroth and Shapon and Jazar and Jogbehag, Beth Nimrah and Beth Haran, fortified cities and folds for sheep. And the children of Reuben bit Heshbon and Eliel and Kirjathaim, Nebo and Baal Meon and Simbah, and they gave other names to the cities which they built. And the children of Machar, the son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and took it and disposed the Amorites who were in it. So Moses gave Gilead to Machir, the son of Manasseh, and he dwelt in it. Also Jair, the son of Manasseh, went and took its small towns and called them Havoth Jair. Then Nobiah went and took King Kenab and its villages, and he called it Nabai after his own name.
Okay. So.
Wow!
So,
Those are something else, aren't they?
yeah, very good. Yeah.
There's God's blessings. They gave other names to the cities. You see that where they
Yeah.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so they had already conquered some of these lands. These were some of the battles that the king of Og and the king of Shihom and the Amorites and the land with the cities. They had already conquered those. Those were some of the ones that I was saying that they had come out against them and fought against them. And some of them had gotten Balaam, who was a prophet or claimed to be a prophet, but they worked with him to tell false prophecies about what was going on and what was going to happen in the land and stuff like that. But Balaam turned on him and wouldn't do it because God told him not to. So all that happened in the chapters that we kind of skipped over here, So there was a bunch of action in there and stuff, but there was also a bunch of ceremonial, do this for this festival and do this for this festival and stuff like that. And I don't really want to get bogged down in that in here because we are focusing more on the life of Moses. So Moses is leading these people to go and to start attacking. So they're already starting to attack the land and go forward. And basically Moses is the only thing holding them back from going in of this generation dying off, which God said, this generation will die off. They will not enter the land. Is basically at this point Moses and probably a few others. But Moses is still here and he's with them. He's already appointed Joshua as his successor. So they know that who his successor is going to be. Aaron has died. Eleazar is now the priest, the high priest. And then Phinehas, his son, is also, assisting him in the priesthood and stuff like that. Because the Levites were the priests. That was something that was determined in some of the chapters throughout Leviticus and all that stuff. That the Levites would be the priesthood. And they don't believe they actually got a portion of the land. They were given, all the others would be to take care, all the other tribes would help to take care of them because they served in the temple, the tabernacle. Temple wasn't built yet, so the tabernacle. They served in there. And so they did that. And so the other tribes had agreed that they would take care of them. Okay? I know I'm not sounding good today, but is that clear with everybody? We okay. So they're moving forward. They're going to the land, and the half tribe of Manasseh he was Joseph's son. Joseph's inheritance was split up between his two sons, Manasseh, or I guess Manasseh's tribe which was Joseph's son. That was split up into two. And actually one of them rebelled right away and didn't get the blessing of being there. And then I think it was Dan, the tribe of Dan, also rebelled right away and started worshiping other gods and wouldn't ever repent. And so they were the first ones easily conquered because if you turn away from God, if they turned away from God, they were easily conquered. If we turn away from God in our lives, we find that a lot more challenging stuff comes along. Now, that's not to say, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of these prosperity guys that preaches everything's going to be great when you come into relationship with Jesus, because that's not the case. Jesus himself told us in John 16:33, take heart because in this world you will have trouble, but take heart because I have overcome the world. And so if we're in Jesus, he's already defeated the world, and we're here, we're going to have troubles, we're going to have struggles, but we know we have the Holy Spirit indwelling in us, and we also have Jesus there with the Father to make intercessory for us. And so whatever, the worst that can happen to us is they torture and kill us. That's the worst. Not that I want that to happen. I'd like to die peacefully, not screaming like everybody else in my grandfather's car. But, no, but that's, but we don't always get that choice. And to be honest with you, there's all over this world now, there are people that are dying for the faith every day. They're being martyred for the faith.
They're even talking of that on the national news, in Nigeria.
Yeah. So
Is that where it is?
it's Nigeria is one of them, and there's several other places too.
Right.
That it's going on.
Too.
Syria and and North Korea and China and other stuff. So there's several countries that it's happening in, and these people have to hide, and they can't freely go out and tell somebody about Jesus like we can, and yet we don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
We have this freedom and this ability to be able to just display our faith boldly, and we don't do it. We don't tell people about Jesus. We don't take the time, and it's really kind of sad that these people are willing to die for it over there. But do I think that at some point in time it's going to happen over here? Yes, I do. We can see how the world is and the nation is kind of turning now and getting to that point where it's, we're being criticized. They're trying to shut us up. They're trying to stop us, cancel us is the big term or whatever, and stuff. And so I think eventually, might take a few more generations before it happens. But I honestly think that it's gonna be a problem to be a Christian in this nation. And this nation will fall at that point when it does happen. And we do know by book of Revelation that all the nations fall at some point. And that there's just a one unified thing, and it's not in favor of God. One unified government, one unified religion, one unified everything, and it's not in favor of God. And so those days are coming. And right now, the Muslim religion is the fastest growing religion in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, now you have two different sects of that, groups of that. You get the extremists and everything, and then you have other Muslims that aren't as by the letter of their law and stuff like that. So just like there is with every group, we have that with Christianity too.
Mm-hmm.
We have that we have extreme. I remember several years ago there was a church. I want to say it was called West Baptist or something, that would protest at the military funerals of people that were killed in the military and stuff like that. They were protesting, and they were a Baptist church that was claiming that war wasn't good and all this stuff and everything. And so they were, and it was kind of crazy, and they had a lot of beliefs, and we see it now. We see there's the people that think that they're battling. It's Satan's right there every day, battling them every day, and it's actually Satan himself. Well, Satan is not everywhere. He can't be everywhere. He is not like God. He is a created being of God, which means he can only be in basically one place at a time, like the angels. And so everybody that says, oh, well, Satan told me this and Satan told me, no, his demons probably did. Or if you heard something or felt something or whatever, his demons or whatever, yes, but if you're you're a believer of God, then yes, we do go through spiritual warfare, and I'm not discounting that at all. Not at all. But I think we give Satan too much credit. He can't be everywhere. Right? He does have an army that does his bidding for him, and those are the ones that will come out and wreak havoc in our lives and stuff. And so, and a lot of that is to try to destroy our witness so we don't have an impact on others, because they can't get us because we have the Holy Spirit, but they can cause us to stumble and fall and, affect other people that they can still get. And so here we see I need to get back on track here, but we see here that Moses makes a deal with these tribes. Says, you go over, you fight, and you can have this land. You want this land? Okay, you can have it, whatever. But you got to go help everybody else fight for the whole land, because they're going to help you fight for your land. And so you need to, that's only fair and only right. And they agree to do that, and so everything's good. And that's actually what happens. They go and fight through the land and stuff. And then at some point, Joshua tells them, okay, we're good. You can go back. You can go home now. Go back to your wives. Go back to your children and everything and stuff. And so that's what takes place here. Okay. So, and the next few chapters through the rest of the book of Numbers is genealogies and some more rules or more things. And it talks about cities of refuge and how, if you murder somebody, you can go to a city of refuge or something. And there's a lot of rules and regulations and stuff like that. You'll be protected until you can be tried, kind of thing. So I think now we call those jails. So, but and so they have that in there, okay, and stuff. So Moses is kind of giving them more laws and stuff, more rules as to what's going to happen and how to split up the land after they conquer it, okay. And that's how Numbers ends, with genealogies and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into all that, okay. And we're going to jump to the very end of Deuteronomy here. But Deuteronomy, scholars say it's Moses' final address to the people. He goes and he recounts all that they've been through over the 40 years throughout this book, and talks about the problems and the mistakes that they've made, talks about the golden calf, he talks about the other things that they've done wrong where they've turned their back on him, the whining and the complaining that we've been talking about from these people about every time something goes wrong. Why'd you bring us out of Egypt? We had it so good in Egypt. At least we had food and everything. Yeah, they were killing us with making these bricks, but we at least had food. Why'd you bring us out here? And it started from day one when they got to the Red Sea, where and said, were there not enough graves for us in Egypt that you brought us out into the desert to die? And they, for 40 years, while they wandered through the desert, we saw that last week, they were still complaining. After 38 years, 40 years, they were still complaining about we were better off in Egypt. Okay, now that generation has died off. This new generation only heard the stories of what was being told about Egypt because they didn't experience it. And so I can only imagine if they're still complaining about it, then their parents painted a pretty rosy picture about Egypt and how great it was. And don't we do that sometimes with our mind? We don't remember things the way that they really were. We kind of gloss over some stuff, So,
Embellish.
Yeah, you go, embellish. That's the word. Yeah. So, right. But so we're gonna jump ahead here. But that's what Moses does. He goes through and talks about the history of everything, the desert years and all this stuff, and goes over some of the laws and everything and all this stuff about how to keep things clean and just different things like that. And then we get to Deuteronomy 34. Okay. He is told here, Moses is told by God, go attack the Midianites, and after you defeat the Midianites, I will call you to your forefathers. So he's being told he's going to die soon. Now, what would you do? Would you send the people out to go attack them so that you could go die? Or would you kind of hold off and try to buy another year or two?
Yeah.
I don't know, but the way that these people have treated Moses over the years, I think I'd be real. Yeah, go get him. This is the only way I'm going to get out of here. Go get him. I'm ready. You know.
He knows what it is to be in the presence of God.
Yes, he does. Yeah, because he's been in the presence of God. And if he doesn't send them out, he will have disobeyed God and fallen out of the presence and the will in the presence of God. So, that would be a much, yeah. So I think I'd be like, go ahead, go defeat him and be back by supper. So, yeah.
Right.
But so we're going to see here, this one should be a whole lot easier for you to read.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm not the ones putting the words in here. But,
You can tell me on Saturday night when you prepare.
okay, yeah, I should have warned you about that passage.
Yeah, you should.
I'm sorry.
That is okay.
Yeah, 34, 1 through the whole chapter, 1 through 12.
Okay. So then Moses went up from the plains of Moab to Mount Nebo and the top of Pisgah, which is across from Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali, and the land of Ephraim, and Manasseh, and the land of Judah as far as the western sea, and the south and the plain and of the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, as far as Zor. Then the Lord said, This is the land of which I swore to give Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I have caused you to see it with your eyes, but you shall not cross over there. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite Beth Peor, but no one knows his grave to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural vigor diminished. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses ended. Now Joshua the son of Nun was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So the children of Israel heeded him and did as the Lord had commanded Moses. But since then there has not arisen in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. And all the signs and wonders which the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt, before Pharaoh, before all his servants, and in all his land, and by all the mighty power and the great terror which Moses performed in the sight of all Israel.
Okay. All right. So, who buried Moses?
Oh, God. I never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't.
Okay. Now, in Jude, the book of Jude, verse 9, I believe it is. Yeah, verse 9. It speaks of the archangel Michael. I think he was the one that went and met Mary when she was going to conceive Jesus or be conceived with Jesus. He was the one that went and talked to her. And it says that Michael fought with Satan over the body of Moses. Because Satan was trying to get the body of Moses.
This is that where?
Jude, verse 9. Jude is just one chapter long. It says it in verse 9. And it says that in that battle, he did not sin. Okay? So, God says here, he, because capital E, being he, that represents God. If it's he and it's capital, we've learned that shows that it's God. So God, yes, God had a part in burying Moses. Sounds like Michael had a part in it. He had, or at least he kept Satan at bay while God buried Moses. and nobody knows where he was buried. So,
Makes you wonder if there was some power in his bones.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's been in the presence of God that much over 40 years. There might be.
He says he had his vigor
Yeah,
since he was
right.
that young.
Because look at the bones of Elisha. When he died, he was a prophet. When he died, they put him in the grave, and then they were putting somebody else in the grave with him, and grave robbers were coming, and so they got scared, and they just threw that body in there, and that body touched Elisha's bones, and he came back to life. So, I mean, no, but that spooked the grave robbers, but you know, I mean, so yeah, and he wasn't a 40-year. I don't know how long he was prophet, but he had so much power in his bones in the presence of God that a miracle, even after his death, was performed with it.
Wow.
And so, probably a good reason why Satan was trying to get a hold of Moses' body and wanting it and stuff. And probably, it wouldn't surprise me, being that it was Satan, that Satan was planning on indwelling in Moses and coming back and then leading the people the way he wanted to lead them. And so, you know, that's probably the case. But is there any other times where we see Moses in the New Testament? He's talked about a lot in the New Testament, but is there any other time we see him in the New Testament?
In the garden of Jesus when he's praying. No, I just heard that Moses.
No, that's the angels. That's angels.
I thought there was two.
Yeah. Mount of Transfiguration. He was up on the mountain
Okay.
praying.
Okay.
And he had Peter, James, and John up there with him. Even Peter said, "It's good that we're here with you. Let us make shelters for Elijah and Moses and you." And then, you know, he fell asleep, because that's what Peter did. And when he came to, it was just Jesus. Elijah and Moses were gone. But he recognized the other two as Elijah and Moses, though he had never seen them. And that's talked about in Matthew 17, 1-6. So if you want to look at that. And you said it right, Melissa. Where's the other time that it's believed that there are two witnesses in Revelation that will come? Matthew 17, 1-6. In the final days in Revelation, it talks about two witnesses that will come and will proclaim the word of the Lord, while all the bad stuff's starting to really ramp up and go on and everything, and they cannot be killed. Several people try to kill them, but they cannot be killed. Scholars, we don't know officially, and let me clarify that, we don't know officially, but most scholars believe that the two witnesses will be Elijah and Moses, because they were the ones that Peter saw and recognized. And it wasn't denied in Matthew. Peter didn't deny that that's who they were. I mean, Jesus didn't deny that that's who they were. And so it's really commonly believed that that's who will be there in the final days. It'll be Moses and Elijah. And of course, we know Elijah never tasted death. He was taken up in a chariot of fire, which actually, that's the way I want to go. That's pretty cool right there. So, yeah. But yeah. So, but yeah, and Moses is mentioned many times throughout the New Testament and the Bible in general and stuff. But a lot of the Old Testament is mentioned for the history aspects of it. But in Hebrews 11, he's listed in the hall. That's kind of coined as the Hall of Fame of Faith. And so he's listed in there as that for his faith and all he did. Now, he was not perfect. We saw that. And because he did what we talked about last week, he beat the rock with the stick and didn't follow God's word to the letter. And I'm sure there were probably some other times that he didn't follow God to the letter. And God said, okay, you don't get to go into the land now. I'll show it to you, but you don't get to go into it. So I might be okay with that. Show it to me. I get to see what it looks like, but I don't got to go do all the work to get it. Yeah, that might be okay with me. So but yeah. But so he went from being a baby that should have been killed at birth, was rescued by Pharaoh's daughter, raised in Pharaoh's palace, treated as royalty, then murdered an Egyptian because they were beating on a Hebrew, ran for his life, ended up out in the desert, and was out in the desert. God calls him with a burning bush and brings him, and he tells him he's going to lead the people. Moses makes all kinds of excuses, but eventually ends up spending 40 years of his life leading these people. And so he's a good testament on being a servant of God. Yes, you are going to make mistakes, but the big thing is that Moses always repented when he did it. And he was always willing to intercede for other people too. Because the Israelites would screw up, God would punish them, and they'd be like, please go to God and ask him to stop this. And he would. So, okay. So, any questions, thoughts about the life of Moses? You guys enjoyed this?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
always thought he was old and tired though. It says his vision was good and he
Yeah,
had
still.
bigger.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And it might have talked about it in one of the chapters we skipped over, but I'm not sure when his wife died. I'm sure at some point his wife, but the last I remember us reading about his wife is he sent his wife back with the father-in-law, or no, the father-in-law brought her back, but they were getting ready to go into war or whatever, and so he sent her back for protection or whatever. And so, but I'm sure that at some point she had passed and died during this time
So
as
are you
well.
saying that's why he had his vigor and his vision and
What?
it felt good because his wife died?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all.
Oh, yeah.
No. We've already talked about it.